Ahs, and uhs. So many students ask me this question. How do I get rid of my ahs, and uhs? They're ruining my credibility, they're ruining my confidence, and most of all, they're ruining how effective my presentations are. And on this week's episode of Master Talk, we're going to focus on getting rid of these ums, uhs, and uhs once and for all. Good afternoon, guys. This is Brendan from Master Talk, the go-to channel to help you master your talk. And today we're talking about uhs, and uhs. There's three key questions that we'll be answering today. The first one is, why is it so important for you to focus on removing them altogether from your presentations so that you say absolutely none of them? The second question that we'll be answering is, why are they so difficult to master? And in the last question, we'll be going through my simple trick to mastering your ahs, and ehs. So before I dive into the content today, I really want to emphasize the importance of watching my previous video that will be linked up in the description about how to use silences effectively in presentations. And the reason is because I'll be using a lot of those concepts in this video, so check it out. Links in the description. So let's start with the first question, which is, why are they so important to remove? And I'm talking about ahs, and ehs, of course. Just saying them bothers me, so imagine saying them so much in presentations. The main reason you want to remove them is because it reduces your credibility as a speaker and reduces how people feel about how confident you are on stage. So let's take an example. Let's say I'm giving a pitch on exercise and how important it is, and I use three key arguments to parlay my message and my idea. So the first one, let's say, is life expectancy. If you exercise, you live longer. The second one is productivity. A lot of people find that when they exercise regularly, they're more productive throughout the day. And the third argument is, of course, being healthier. If you exercise more, you'll be more healthier and you'll live longer. So imagine that same pitch, but riddled with ahs, and ehs. So instead of presenting the arguments I just did, one, life expectancy, two, being more productive, and three, being more healthier, the same pitch is being given with ahs, and ehs. So let's use that example. So exercise is great for life expectancy, and it's also more productive, and exactly my point. So when there's ahs, and ehs, it reduces the level of confidence. But look at it more from the audience's perspective. So let's say I'm an audience member and I'm watching myself give a talk, which is weird, but hear me out. The first thing that comes to mind isn't the importance of exercise, but rather, oh, is Brendan okay on stage? I'm a bit worried for him. I'm not really understanding what's going on, but I hope he's not too afraid on stage. So essentially what I'm trying to get at is that audience remember how they feel from a presenter, what they feel inside, versus what exactly is being presented to them. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, if you want to share your amazing ideas to the world, you first need to figure out how to capture your audience's attention. And the first step to capturing that attention is removing your ahs, and ehs in presentations, so that they can focus more on what you have to say rather than the mistakes that you're making in the presentation. Does that make sense? Perfect. So let's get into the second part of this video, which is how to master them and why they're so difficult to master more specifically. So from my previous video, how to use silences, I talk a lot about the high school presentations. Especially everyone who's watching this can relate to the fact that high school presentations are so hard to do, and they're super stressful too. You're giving a presentation about history and how important the Renaissance is, but your audience, who's comprised mostly of 14, 15, and 16-year-olds, aren't that interested in history and don't give you the most excited look. So as I was saying in that video, silences are a way for us to escape from that, and we're also scared to use those silences to make our presentations more effective. But there's one part in the video that I wanted to share specifically in this one, and that's the use of ahs, and ehs. Yes, we use silences as a way to try and figure out what we want to say next, essentially. But another thing that I want to emphasize is that we also use ahs, and ehs to bias time. So let's say, for example, I'm presenting the same example as I did before about exercise, and I say that it increases life expectancy, but I forgot exactly why exercise makes us more productive. So let's say I use the same example and I say, oh, exercise is more productive, it makes us more happier, it makes us more efficient, but I forget the exact research and why that is the case. I pause to try and figure it out, and then I start getting worried. But most of the time, and most public speakers also use ums and uhs to buy time. So exercise is more productive, and and research found that exercise makes us 5 times more productive. So in the middle of the pitch, you notice that I use ahs, and uhs to buy time, and this is what most public speakers do. But what exceptional public speakers do is they use silences completely. So they don't say anything at all in that moment, rather than using ahs, and uhs to buy time. So essentially, to answer this question, the reason why ahs, and uhs are difficult to master is because it's a very hard habit that we've learned throughout the years that we've spent in the schooling system. So every time we gave a presentation, every time we wanted to talk about something, we always use ahs, and uhs as a way to buy us time to try and figure out what's next and what's missing from the presentation that we're giving, right? But as you know from your favorite TEDx talk or your favorite TED talk, they don't use ums and ahs at all. So if we want to be exceptional, we need to figure out how to remove them altogether. Which brings me to my third and final question. What is my simple trick to mastering ahs, and uhs? And I like to call this trick cutting midway through sentences. So the cutting midway exercise. So a bit of backstory. When I started trying to figure out ahs, and uhs, because I of course had a lot of trouble, as everyone does, on how to get rid of them, I focused a lot more on making sure I didn't say any of ahs, and uhs, instead of making sure the quality of my pitch was good. So essentially what I'm trying to get at here is, if you want to master ahs, and uhs, you need to prioritize that over saying anything in your pitch, even if it's complete gibberish. So let me give you an example. So let's say, for example, I say the sentence, Jim loves to eat apples, right? So simple enough. So let's take the first version where I forget what the word after eat is. So let's play this out. Jim loves to eat apples every day. So I use an and ah here in the first version. So let's say I use cutting midway now in the second version. So the second version goes like this. Jim loves to eat apples every day. So if you go back in the video and you compare both of these versions, you notice 2 important things. The first one is that the first version of the video, even if I say the whole sentence, it's less confident, you're less enthusiastic, you're less energetic. But in the second version of the video, even if my sentence doesn't make sense when I pause between eat and everything else in the sentence, I sound more confident. So basically what I'm trying to say is, at the beginning when you practice this exercise, you're going to be cutting a lot in between your sentences, and a lot of what you're saying isn't going to make sense. But your priority is to get rid of your ahs, and uhs at all cost. And I want to emphasize one last thing before ending this video, is that you can only practice what's actually in your pitch until your ahs, and uhs are less than at least 5 in your entire pitch. Ideally, you want to be saying none of them, and then you can coordinate your silences more strategically throughout the presentation, like I do in my pitches. So instead of saying, Jim loves to eat apples every day, you're going to say, Jim loves to eat apples every day, and he absolutely loves the nutritious value of these fruits. Right? Notice how I pause in between sentences rather than in the middle. But at the beginning, you have to do whatever it takes to remove your ahs, and uhs, and you'll be one step closer to mastering your talk. So if you guys like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel to see more, and be sure to give this video a thumbs up and a like to improve the reach of this channel. One last thing I want to leave you off is, if there's one person that you know that's afraid of getting on stage, that's afraid of getting out there and speaking in public and sharing their ideas, be sure to send them this video so that they'll be one step closer to mastering their talk. See you next week, everyone. Take care. Bye.